chew the fat, and give our gut reactions on all things pop culture, film, TV, and theatre. We talk to legends in the creative industry and those on the rise. We game old school. We support independent creatives. Got a project? Tell us about it. Get in touch. We do all of this, and a whole lot more. Like, subscribe, get involved. Join Steen Anthony Nielsen and the Outcasts Creative.
Hello. Welcome to those people that have just come over from Open Bar. Consider this your after party exclusive. I have not done these every single week since the new year because I have been a little bit poorly, fighting off pneumonia rather seriously from time to time. So I will be coughing and wheezing occasionally. Hopefully I've got a co-host arriving shortly who will be able to do a fill-in job for me should that happen. But anyway, after the announcement today of, well, one of my most beloved franchises being effectively sold off, I thought, well, I have to address this. I have to talk about this. This is something that must be discussed. And of course, it was talked about a little bit on Open Bar, but I've got some other things I want to say in addition to that. Welcome to the people in the chat. I see a few of the regulars are here. Keith is here. Hello and buy the book. Yes, I do have a book out. Silver Screen Journeys. In fact, The Spy Who Loved Me is in that book along with a couple of other Bond films, and I talk about the impact of the Bond franchise on my life. Another person who was impacted by the Bond franchise, especially the black and white silent comedy version, was the Inside Man. Hello.
Good evening. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Still a bit wheezy, but I am here. So
Good. Yeah.
And we've got some interesting comments in the chat here. Billy Macklin says, bring Pierce Brosnan back. I'd love to see an older Bond being called back into service. I mean, my favourite Bonds in order of least favourite to favourite. Tell you what, we can do these together one at a time. Let's do these together one at a time.
Okay.
So last... I have to say would be George Lazenby, even though I do really love On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
I couldn't agree more.
He's just not a great actor. He looks okay. Physically, he looks fine. Probably the haircut could have been, a bit more. I mean, it was the 60s or whatever. But physically, he looks fine. But I'm not a big fan of the Lazenby wooden acting, and also his voice was dubbed for half the movie.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So
George Baker, wasn't it? Who?
And a lot of people don't realise that, and and it really jars because it doesn't sound like Lazenby being a spy and putting on a another voice. It just sounds like a really wooden voice. So. It doesn't really work.
Although I will just say that I did love, the Telly Savalas's Blofeld, from downtown New York.
I really like On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's in my top 5 Bond films for sure. Yeah. Really good story, great end action sequence.
Yeah.
Love it when the helicopters storm that restaurant, which was a real location that was being built at the time. And some good combinations of miniature work there as well.
And probably the most kick-ass score of all of the Bond.
Really good score. Yeah. That actually, definitely. Because that was quite brave to sort of make such a diverse change from the music.
Yes, it was.
Not have a lyrical, big band kind of number at the beginning. Thanks for popping in, Blibbity Bloop. My YouTuber with my absolute favourite name in chat, Snorterpoopus Cuba, is here. It's just brilliant name. That's got to belong to an awesome person. Dan Candy is here. The news makes me sad. Dan, if you want to pop on, you can come on. And he's out walking the dog. We've got Flav. We've got Zed Actual. Rachel Percy Art is here. Wormy Spoons is here. I do like the spoons. Desert Phoenix is here. Gary Banjo Sandwich Worthington is here. One of my mods. David Rayner, who I don't think I've seen. Think of this as a gatepost to hold on to. Whoa! $50 super chat.
Wow.
Lance, go and get a bottle. Let's have a drink to the end of the era. Oh, mate. That's very kind.
Crikey. Yeah, it's
He's
very
also
kind.
a fan of the Lazenby. Listen, we're allowed to like different things. That's not a problem. Piddly Widdly says, here's 2 pink hands for the panel, and so on. Okay, so right, so my least favourite Bond and your least favourite Bond is Lazenby. My next least favourite Bond is Daniel Craig.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
He's my next least favourite Bond. I've not apart from Casino Royale, I just haven't really enjoyed the Craig era. The films have become a bit too cold and a bit too hard and a bit too they're a bit too Jason Bourne. You know, it just felt very Jason Bourne in the style and the direction, and I just sort of I feel like I'm watching a Jason Bourne movie when I'm actually watching a Bond movie. So, you know, it's but anyway, yeah. So yeah, who's your second least favorite?
My second least favorite.
How many have there been altogether? Is it 6?
6, yeah.
So we're talking your number 5.
Yeah, my number 5, and this is a really controversial pick.
Yeah, go on.
Unfortunately, it's Pierce Brosnan.
Wow, that is controversial. Yeah. You see, I really rate him.
See, I like his suaveness. I think he's a terrific actor, you know, and he fits the role perfectly. But I can't quite grasp him as Bond. It just doesn't strike me as being Bond. It just doesn't, I'm afraid.
You've just got that image of his tight swimming shorts stuck in your head from Mrs. Doubtfire, haven't you?
Well, it's really
very cool.
The long Good Friday.
Oh yeah, driving the car at the end.
Yeah. But
he never even got to meet Bob Hoskins on that movie because he didn't have any scenes with him.
No. But
he's in the swimming bars. So
that's right. Yeah.
Once you'd seen him as that man in the swimming bars in the sort of the whole gay scenario, you just didn't. You know.
See, I love Pierce Brosnan. I mean, I think he's a really smashing guy. I really do.
Yeah, he strikes me as a really lovely guy.
Yeah. But strangely, GoldenEye is actually one of my favorite Bond films. So, you know, riddle me that.
Yeah, I mean, GoldenEye is a fave for a lot of people, for sure. I'm not as enamored with it as everyone else. I like it. I didn't think Sean Bean was that great as the villain. I thought we could have, but I do like Brosnan. I have to say, well, okay. So your number 5, our joint number 6 was Lazenby. Your number 5 was Brosnan. My number 5 was Craig. So we're going to 4. My number 4 would probably be Dalton, I think. Yeah.
Why would you say that? Why? Is it because the amount of, you know, he has the fewest aside from Lazenby?
No, actually not at all. I've got to think about this. I mean, it's a toss-up. It's hard. It's between him and, in that order, it's between him and Roger Moore. See, the problem is that my favourite Bond film is a Roger Moore Bond movie.
Yeah.
No prizes for guessing which one, people, if you were tuning in at the beginning. But I think Dalton and Brosnan are the 2 actors that got Bond closest to the books, closest to the character, as I perceive him. Whether Ian Flemyng would have agreed, we will never know.
That's a really good little thing that you've tagged on the end there, because we all have our own perception of the literary Bond. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, because look, when we read a book, um, it's a very personal thing. It's a very subjective thing. So we perceive a character in a very different way to maybe how it's intended by the author, but certainly how other people interpret that character. So um, yeah, I agree. I mean, I absolutely agree with what you're saying about Timothy Dalton was certainly one of the closest to um, the Ian Fleming Bond. Um, yeah, it's a really really good thing to have said. As you perceived him. Yeah, so I'd
yeah.
agree with that.
Um, I really like The Living Daylights. That's
Mm,
probably also in my top 5
mm.
Bond movies of all
Yeah,
time.
yeah, it's a
Um,
cracking film. Cracking
License to
film.
Kill Uncut, as opposed to the original UK release, is
Mm,
a decent movie.
mm, mm.
The cut version of it is terrible. Cut all the violence out of it, which
Yeah.
made the whole motivation and all of that for Dalton's storyline. It kind
Mm,
of watered it down.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to call. My opinion on these has moved around. Well, Blazing Bee's always been last,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and Craig's always been second to last for me, because I just haven't enjoyed his. I think he's a very competent actor. I think he's an okay Bond. Just
yeah,
haven't enjoyed his movies really.
yeah,
Only
yeah.
one I really liked was the first one, and he just seems very miserable
Mm,
in the role. And I hate to repeat. I know Drinkers said the same comments, but that's something we totally agree on. I just don't like
mm,
him in the part.
mm.
Um, his interpretation of Bond is the interpretation we would have got in the 80s if Lewis Collins had been cast. It would have been that same hard-edged
Yeah, I mean,
British Bond, and I
that's a
think
good
Collins
point.
would have delivered that version better than Craig,
Yeah.
personally.
You know,
Uh,
there's a real similarity between them, I think, between how Lewis Collins would have played Bond. I mean, because we know how Lewis Collins acted. I wouldn't
yeah,
say that he was a one or two dimensional actor. He
no,
was a
he
very,
had
very, very
range
good
within
actor.
his
Yes, he did. Yeah,
sort of pool, as it were.
yeah. Um,
Sure.
but I think he's probably the best actor never to have been Bond.
I would
I think
agree.
he would have been fantastic,
Su
absolutely fantastic.
Such a shame we lost him so young.
Yeah, yeah, it really
Um,
is.
we still got Martin Shaw, but
Mm,
we don't have Lewis, sadly. Cancer at 67.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, we both agree that On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a great film,
Mm.
with not necessarily a great Bond. David Macy, not seen you for ages,
Oh,
mate.
Dave.
Good to see you. Where have you been? Gary Bolter, who dropped a comment earlier. If you want to come on, mate, I've sent you the link on your Facebook account. So if you want to pop in, let me know. In fact, you don't even need to let me know. You can just come. In fact, you can just appear like this, like poof, like magic appearing. Dropped a comment earlier. If you want to come on, mate. Oh, look, I can even hear myself on the Gary Bolter broadcast. Let me just mute him for a second. But Kaz, you're now you're on the stream now. So you need to mute the window you have open, so I can't hear myself like 3 seconds later. Otherwise, it's like being trapped in a really weird time dimensional vortex. Yeah. So Gary, how you doing?
Well, I'm terribly upset about the news that the whole Bond franchise has gone to that prick, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
I don't mean to say anything rude about the man, but, he fucked up Lord of the Rings. Let's hope he doesn't fuck this up.
This
Indeed.
this really is the sticking point with a lot of people. It's not necessarily just the fact that it's Amazon. It's now we know that it's another kind of corporate thing, isn't it? So the fact that we have so many things, so many wonderful franchises that now have have bitten the dust. You know, we have Star Trek, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, you know, the Alien franchise as it stands at the moment. But you know, and this is just going to be another one in a long line.
We've got Aliens Earth coming up soon, so that's dropping in May, isn't it? So
it's on Hulu, isn't it?
Gary, aka Scottish Bond, and I feel you should keep that accent for the rest of the stream.
Right.
Right. So we were doing our bonds in our favourite bonds in reverse order. Good to have you on the stream, Bill. I don't think I've seen you in the chat before, so welcome. Yeah, we were doing them in reverse order. Mine and Inside Man's least favourite was both Lazenby.
Oh God, yeah, I have to agree.
Okay. Good. You dropped the accent there, though. That's.
Oh no, I have to agree. He was shite. I may have endorsed him in 1969, but you know what? I was on drugs then, so you know. But I realized the error of my ways as I looked down on this podcast from a heavenly laptop.
And then for number 5, I put Daniel Craig, and Inside Man is about to state his.
I said my number 5 was Pierce Brosnan, wasn't it?
Sorry, he said Pierce Brosnan. What would your number 5 pick be out of the 6
it'd
Bonds?
have to be Dalton for me.
Dalton for you, okay?
I recognize he presented a great character, but I just thought the films were a bit. They just weren't for me. You know.
Yeah. No, fair enough. We can accept that view. Yeah, I personally really do like The Living Daylights. Great song, good action scenes, some really great characters. But I'm not so keen on License to Kill, which a lot of people really like because it's so gritty. But it has issues, not least of which is that we didn't get the same version of it as the Americans, which is still a sticking point. We absolutely should have done, but yeah, we got heavily edited.
I have not seen these uncut versions, so
the uncut version was released later. So if you got like the anniversary versions that came out a fair old while ago, you would have seen the uncut one because that's the one that's now widely available. But at the time, it was cut, so it would get a PG certificate and not a 15. Because a Bond had never been a 15 before, you see, so they were sort of adamantly against that. They knew it would affect ticket sales.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go. So okay. So Dalton is your. So my number 4. I think mine. Yeah, I think we were just getting onto that. My number 4 is Dalton. I like him. I think he did a good rendition of the character. But yeah, the films are, well, one is a hit and one is a miss. I would have liked to have seen him in a third movie. I really would have. It's a shame.
It's a great shame.
Yeah.
Living Daylights work print had some action scenes removed. I would like to have seen what they were. Maybe they're on the extras and I have seen them. I don't know. I've got those anniversary versions, which are great. The DVDs with all the extra bells and whistles on that came out with 2 discs and everything in the early 2000s. Yeah, really, really good. And then they did a massive Blu-ray box set of the same. So that was my number 4, Inside Man. Who's your number 4 then? Inside Man, are you still there?
Yes, mate. Yeah, sorry. Right, okay. Again, this is going to be a lot of people are going to get upset with me on this one. Roger Moore.
Well, I think that's fine. I mean, he is a very campy Bond.
He is. It just look. I mean, I love the Roger Moore Bond films, but in terms of
I like most of the Roger Moore Bond films.
Oh
I
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
say that I like them all.
Yeah, I
Um,
think the funny thing is, I mean, some of the least favorite, those that are generally regarded as people's least favorite Roger Moore Bond movies, are now again being sort of reevaluated. Things like Moonraker and Man with a Golden Gun and For Your Eyes Only.
yeah.
A lot of people are rewatching those and saying, you know what, there's some merit in those movies, and
I
I would
I
agree.
like For Your Eyes Only a lot more than I did when it
Mm,
came out because it was so
same here.
scaled down.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
as a teenager, you came away thinking, "Fuck me, there was a space battle in the last one.
yeah,
Now I've got this
yeah,
whinging blonde kid
yeah.
and a couple of motorbikes. What's going on?"
But it was with For Your Eyes
Oh,
Only. It's a bit of a strange one. I mean, it is actually a very good film. If you watch the movie, it's a very good film. It has one of the worst scores I think of any Bond movie.
yeah, yeah. The
It's
songs,
terrible.
the song's good, but the instrumental score is awful.
Yeah, I mean, it's
It,
Bill
it's
Conti, isn't it? I think it's Bill Conti who scored that.
Yeah, it's kind of
Um,
this sort
Terrible
of
theme tunes as well.
jazzy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I wasn't keen on the
It's,
yeah.
it's terrible score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also yeah, actually I'm not going to get onto the Bond films that I love and don't love.
Well, you
But yeah,
can.
so Roger Moore really. See, I look at it from this point of view, right? I want my Bond to be able to kick the shit out of me. I don't want to know that I'm going to watch an actor that I know that I can take.
He'll just kill you with the sharpness of his kipper tires, mate. So,
Or
you
his
know,
whiz.
yeah.
He is a very witty man.
The end's
Because he
right,
is
man.
always keeping the British end up, sir.
Oh, such a good film.
That's a great movie.
Gary Bando Sandwich Worthington has said he loves Octopussy. You and me both, mate. Actually, I that's my last favorite Bond movie. View to a Kill. I didn't like the film, but I did love. I loved. What's his name? The villain, Christopher Walken. Thought
Oh
Walken
yes,
Walken was a great Bond villain.
Yeah.
And pairing him with Grace Jones kind of worked as well. But just the story and that fight with the airship on top of the San Francisco bridge looked a bit naff.
Yeah.
Although I love the miniature work in this.
There's some good miniature work, and I
work.
actually really Roger Moore hated the scene where Chris Walken went mad with his machine gun and shot up all his men. I thought that was great because at the end of the day, you've had all these villains that were about to destroy the entire world. What's a few men with a machine gun, Roger? In the Spy Love Me, they were going to take out the entire planet, mate. It's like you're looking at it a bit too literal, I think.
Yeah.
But I do like Octopussy. I think it's unfairly rated sometimes. And Maud Adams is definitely one of the best Bond girls ever.
Smoking.
And her character also is one of the best female Bond characters. I think Inside Man, you and I talked about this because I think you and I have both read the script for this.
Yes.
The Bond film, The Property of a Lady. Yeah, that was developed, and there was a script written for that, and I've read it. It was a while ago.
And?
I have read it. Yeah, it was good.
Oh,
it was
wow.
good. Yeah. But it was never shot, and that script was never used with a different Bond in it. But I think now I'm right in thinking that bits of that script either morphed into Octopussy or it was written as a sequel to Octopussy. I forget now.
It's
You'll have to remind me.
morphed into Octopussy. Yes.
Morphed into
Yeah.
Okay. Darth Plato for $5 says
Hey.
Roger was campy, but it was serious campy, not satire. Yeah, I mean the level of campiness kind of went up in different films. Good to see you. Hey, it's me in HD. Thanks for popping back again. Owen Howard says, love the opening scene of Octopussy, really jarring. I remember as a kid thinking, what am I watching? I think you mean the murder of the guy in the clown suit. And
009, isn't it?
Yeah, and that whole sequence is really quite terrifying, you know, with the two knife guys and everything. And they were good sort of like sidekick villains as well. And that whole train chase sequence, in fact, that whole sequence with, you know, them trying to stop the train and Bond getting on the train, getting off again, and with Stephen Burkoff and chasing with the car, that whole entire sequence was extremely well done. Really good action sequence. For $10, can we talk about the Necros versus Security Butler in The Living Daylights? Yes, we can, because that's a unique scene that action films never have. A major villain having a hard time against a non-character. Yeah, I thought that was really good. But basically, that scene showed that, like, even the you know, in the super kind of secret mansion in the countryside where people are stored and whatever, and it was part of Bond's, the infrastructure of Bond's organization. Even the household are all secret agents. They're all trained secret agents. So even the gardeners have got like machine guns and things in their buckets just in case, but they will still also work the garden. And yeah, the butler in the kitchen, you know, turned out to be like quite a shit hot guy. He nearly got the better of him. That's a really good scene. That I like that scene. The music, the instrumental music on The Living Daylights got a good score as well. So
Yeah.
Okay, so your number 4 pick was Roger Moore.
Roger Moore.
Yes, Mr. Bolter. Who was your number?
Well,
4?
I'm going to throw a little firecracker into the ring here, and dare I say, be a little controversial. My 4th are actually 2. And they're for the camp. I love the campiness. It's Roger Moore, and a little out of the franchise, David Niven.
Of course.
I mean, you can have David Niven, I suppose.
You know,
yeah, because he was in he was in the other Casino Royale,
67
movie.
Casino Royale. I mean, I like them both just for the fun campiness of the character and the stories and the films, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, David Niven could have also been a good choice to play Bond when Connery was cast. If they hadn't cast Connery, they could have gone to him.
Yeah,
but he lacks the ruggedness, maybe.
Yeah, he's rather slight, I think.
Yeah, he would have been fine for the debonair conversations and the scenes with the ladies, but with the action stuff and running around with a machine gun, you know, not so much. I absolutely love David Niven. Him and my father had a very similar look, similar facial structure and whatnot. And my dad had that tash for a long time. And so I always used to say to him, Niven reminded me of him. And I'll never forget the day that David Niven died. Oh man, I was so upset as a kid. That was like the first time I felt proper grief, because I grew up with him, you know, watching his movies and stuff.
I think it was that character in Paper Tiger, you know. Really had that sympathy for his characters.
And they showed Paper Tiger on BBC One when he died. That was the dedication. You know, BBC always used to do that. Now, in a change of our program, as a dedication to the late David Niven, Paper Tiger. You know, they just whatever. And you watch that film now, and that film was shot in Indonesia, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
And it was shot when it was filmed in that country. There was like a slightly tyrannical regime and sort of shit like that was actually going on. It was all a bit of an unusual parody to the time. But that film made me cry when I watched it.
It did me.
Yeah, you know, the scene with him and the kid, Mr. Bradley, Mr. Bradley, sir.
Lovely little film.
They were promoting that kid as the next big child actor, and that was like the only role he ever did, and his voice was dubbed in the movie.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But so you were saying your number 4 was both Niven and Roger Moore.
Indeed.
Okay, so we'll have more. Okay, so we're on to our number 3 pick, and Lord of Toxicity's here as well. So Tox, very quickly, of the 6 people that have played James Bond, who would be your least favorite number 6?
Least favorite would be Lazenby.
Yeah, same as all of us.
Yeah, correct.
And number 5?
Number 5, we would go into Dalton.
Okay,
Right.
number 4.
Number 4 would be Connery.
Oh, got that. Now that's a controversial choice. That's a controversial choice.
Okay.
Say why before we move on.
I feel like Sean Connery plays Sean Connery in it. Now, obviously, I'm not stupid. I know that he wasn't that big of a draw and a star, but you got to understand that, you know, I was born in 77. You know, there'd already been like, what, 3 or 4 or 5 Bond movies come out at that point. I grew up with Roger Moore, and I just thought, looking back on it, you know, because I binged all of them while I was in Iraq, and I just thought, dude, he's just being Sean Connery. Now, obviously, that wasn't a thing in the 60s. I get it, but I just don't. I don't. He's just Sean Connery being Bond. I never forget that he's Sean Connery.
Yeah, I hear what you mean. Rather than a character, I suppose that's interesting that you have that sort of retrospective view, as opposed to those of us who grew up with him playing the role, and he was probably the first Bond that we saw.
Right, and he had not. Like, by the time I saw Sean Connery playing Bond, I'd already seen him play the cop in Untouchables. I'd already seen him be Ramirez and Highlander and all of these other Outland, all of these other things where he is, again, just playing Sean Connery. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to derail your thing because I know I showed up late and I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's late night with Lance. It's all very laid back. It's not as rigid as the.
But yeah, I get a lot of flack for that. But I mean, I think there's something to be said for member berries, and I think people I think it's another reason why Moore is so high on my list, where a lot of people don't rate Moore, maybe but I don't feel like he's a bad Bond. I think it's just the cheesiness of the movies that he was in, due to the fact that they were late 70s, early 80s. It wasn't his fault.
Oh, Brian Valco, by the way, dude, we're coming on to that topic as soon as we've done our favorite Bonds. We're coming to that. Let's rank the Felix Leiters next. No, we're not going to do that. But the best
no need
Felix
for that.
Leiter, the best Felix Leiter is hands down
David Hedison.
Yeah, David Hedison, without a doubt. David Hedison. And I wrote to David Hedison right before he died to ask him to come on for an interview, literally the week before, because I sort of checked and I was like, oh my God, he's still alive. Right, I've got to write to him. And then he was gone.
Yeah.
Which was a real shame. But yeah, okay, well, yeah, the controversial. All right, so number 3 picks. So number 3 for me is Roger Moore. He's the first Bond I saw at the cinema. I think on rewatch, he's probably the Bond I enjoy watching the most, just because he has such fun with it, you know. And so kind of rewatching Roger Moore playing Bond is you can laugh along with him, if you know what I mean. It's a lot of fun seeing him play that character. And Spy Who Loved Me is if we were doing top Bond films, that's my number 1. So number 3, Inside Man. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Sean Connery.
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I got to agree with Tox. Yeah, I've got to agree with Tox here. I mean, I think the only Connery movie that I can say that I actually enjoy, the only Connery Bond movie that I really enjoy, is, as a Bond movie, is Goldfinger. Although I do enjoy parts of You Only Live Twice.
But just not the part where they're making him Japanese.
Yeah, yeah.
Which has aged terribly, man.
Yeah,
terribly.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Although it probably has. I mean, some of those those Japanese Bond girls in that movie are absolutely, and they're absolutely gorgeous. Really,
Yeah, one
cute.
of them is one of the two main Bond girls from You Only Live Twice is still alive.
Yeah.
And the other one died really young. She died in her 40s. Cancer again, as all often is the case. Yeah, Jack Lord is here, Dan Candy. He's in this still right now. I do like Jack Lord as Felix. He's a good Felix. So Connery's your number 3 pick.
It really is, because I would agree with Toxic here. I mean, he does play Sean Connery rather well.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. By the way, guys, if you're new to the channel, I'm trying to hit 10,000 subscribers this year. So don't forget to subscribe. And if you're new to the channel from Open Bar, but you don't really know about my other content, just to let you know, I've got over 100 interviews with people who work in the industry, not just the film industry. We've got people, theatre, board games designers, the music industry, DJs, everything. But I do have a number of very high level guests from the film industry, including Gail Ann Hurd, who produced Terminator 2, and Aliens, and the entire Walking Dead franchise. There's an amazing interview with her. I'm the only YouTube channel that Gail Ann Hurd has been on, and she's been on my channel twice. You can also catch her on the Ron Underwood interview, who is the director of Twitters. I'm going to welcome someone new to the channel for the first time. Critter Kingsford is here, and he's on camera, so I'm going to pop him up.
I'm so sorry. Give me a second. I'm trying to get the headset up and going. And apparently, I'm the only human online.
You're the only human on camera.
Yeah.
You can be off camera if you want.
No, I don't care.
But you've got your fake glasses and comedy nose on, so no one can actually recognize the real you. So it's all good.
Here we go.
There you go. Welcome to the channel, mate.
Hello. How are you?
A friend of mine sent me a link to your Section 31 video today. And we all loved it so much. And we have a policy on the Outcasts Creative channel of inviting what we call young YouTubers, or people with not that many subscribers.
There we go.
Oh, can you still hear me?
Now I can.
Oh, okay. So what
apologize. You were mentioning the Section 31.
Yeah. So somebody sent me a link to your Section 31 video today. And we have a policy on the Outcasts Creative channel of when we see content of what we call young YouTubers that we like. When we say young, we mean that you've only got a few hundred subscribers. We invite you on.
Thank you so much.
Because we believe in collaboration on this channel, and we believe in supporting other creators. That's the purpose of the channel. The meat of the channel is actually industry interviews with people in the creative industry, but within the YouTube realm, we are all about collaboration here. So you're very welcome to the channel for the first time, Critter. So welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you so much.
And you're on with the Inside Man, who also works in the film industry, never goes on camera for that very reason. Myself, I've also been working in the industry since the 90s as a writer, director, a playwright. I've done about 16 or 17 plays. I can't even remember how many now. It seems like a lot. As well as writing books, and I'm an acting coach and stuff like that. So we don't just walk the walk. We know what we're talking about on here.
Nice.
And then you write a book?
Yeah, I did write a book. I've written 14 books. We also have Lord Toxic, who's written 1 book, and and then we also have Gary Bolter, who is in charge of Outcasts Australia, which has legions of members.
Indeed, it does. Hello there.
From Down Under. So he's on from Down Under, and is also another posh Englishman. So it's a versatile group on here for the 21.
Clearly.
So what we're talking about at the minute, before we go on to what's going to happen to the James Bond franchise, is we're talking about our favourite Bonds in reverse order. And we had just got to the number 3 pick. Mine was Roger Moore. Inside Man's was Sean Connery. Toxic, what's your number 3 pick?
I got to go with Craig. He'd be higher if he didn't play the role in such a manner that he was just almost put upon to play the role. You know what I mean? I really liked him, and I really love Casino Royale. It's my second favorite Bond movie, but he just some of the other ones he really kind of phoned it in.
Got very grumpy.
He did.
Got very the unhappiest secret agent ever.
Right. You know, oh no, I got to go do spy stuff and sleep with beautiful women, and oh no, that's terrible. But I liked him. I liked the direction that they were putting him in. Then I realized, man, they're just turning him into Jason Bourne.
Yeah, I made the same comment before you came on.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's 3. He'd be higher if not for the other stuff. I mean, he's in, like I said, one of my favorite, and he's in a couple of. I mean, I like most of those that he's in, but it's, you know, on rewatches I roll my eyes at his performances, especially knowing what, you know. I mean, you know, being a critic and a YouTuber, you know more about stuff, so you look at it with a different eye. Maybe if I didn't, I'd tolerate him more. And I've seen he's the only one I've seen all of his Bond movies I saw in the theater.
I mean, I saw most of the Craig era with my ex-partner, and she was a great litmus test for sort of, you know, the general public, as opposed to me being a person who works in the industry and could be slightly more critical about certain technical things or whatever. Although I like to think when I go and see a movie, I generally put all that behind and I just cut myself off from that. Yeah. But she is, you know, always saw a movie very much as a punter. And I forget the Daniel Craig one that starts with Day of the Dead. Really terrible CGI, poorly CGI'd helicopter sequence with a lot of CG that just looks crap. And we saw it Leicester Square, massive screen, and the bigger the screen, if the weaker the effects, the more they stand out. I would agree. Daniel Craig's film was 2 films too long. I mean, Howard, I would agree.
I would 100% agree with that.
Yeah. But yeah, we came out of that movie and she just said, that was shit. What was that bit at the beginning all about? You know, with the helicopter, that looked awful. And
Out
I
of
was
the mouths of babes.
And then we one of the last films we ever saw together as a couple, I think, was Daniel Craig's last Bond movie. And I remember coming out of that film, No Time to Die, thinking, I feel proper depressed now. And I actually, I came here to see this movie because I wanted to be cheered up. And I feel like I've gone to see a really hard-hitting Jason Bourne, everyone dies kind of film.
Yeah.
Not a Bond film. And I just thought, oh, this is awful. And it is a terrible way to finish the series. If you want to draw a line under it, do a sign-off scene. Don't show us who the new Bond is. You know, have a scene with M and have it like, you know, I'm resigning. You're okay, and then he goes out and Miss Moneypenny call in 007's replacement, would you? And you know, have someone come in. Don't show the actor because you can keep it open that way, and let M have the last line. Yeah. So you ready? And then, you know, just cut to drum barrel, end credits. Something like that would have been a really good ending. That's the way I would have ended it.
See, I think a lot of people seem to forget that Bond did actually die in You Only Live Twice.
Yeah, but he comes back because he lives twice. He lives twice, doesn't he?
Not in the movie. He dies in the book.
All right.
And of course, what happened was Ian Fleming was kind of backed into a corner and did exactly the same things when Sir Arthur Conan Doyle killed off Sherlock Holmes. There was a massive backlash against it. So of course he had him have the fight at the Reichenbach Falls with Moriarty, and of course he fakes his own death and everything. But in Bond's case, he comes back and he's been reprogrammed. And he goes back to MI6, and he's been reprogrammed by the KGB.
Oh no!
So, and so his first mission is to kill M. Yeah. And of course he has to be deprogrammed, and and that's the only reason that it was brought back. But he did actually die in You Only Live Twice in the book. So so he has now died twice. So
Yeah, you only die twice, Mr. Bond. All right, let's move on with our choices, because otherwise we won't get to discuss what's going to happen with Bond at Amazon, because that's the main point of this stream. But I thought it'd be fun to start off with favorite Bonds. So Toxic, that was you. Gary, your number 3 pick.
Well, I feel I should also mention, dare I say, the forgotten Bond, the one that appeared in a 1954 TV special.
Barry Nelson.
Barry
You
Nelson.
can't pick that person, but well
I'm-
mentioned.
I am just mentioning him as a shout out.
Okay, very good. Your intellectual supreme has been proven. Well done.
But for me, it would be Pierce Brosnan next.
Okay, Pierce Brosnan.
A more serious Roger Moore.
Okay, Pierce Brosnan is your number 3. Critter, who would if you were doing top 3 Bonds, who would your number 3 pick be?
I have to, Pierce Brosnan as well.
Pierce Brosnan for your number 3. Cool. Okay. All right. So
Those are the films I could rewatch, like versus some of the other ones.
Let me ask you, Critter, which is your favorite Brosnan Bond movie?
GoldenEye.
Everybody always says GoldenEye. Mine is Tomorrow Never Dies. I love Tomorrow Never Dies.
Really?
I like,
Same.
a lot of people don't like that one, but
help me out here. Is that the one with the Halle Berry and the ice sled?
No.
No.
That's The World Is Not Enough. No,
yeah.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
that was Die Another Day.
Oh, Die Another Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tomorrow Never Dies is the one with the stealth boat and
Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh and Jonathan. What's his name?
Price. Jonathan Price.
Is the villain.
Terry Hatcher.
Terry Hatcher. Yeah.
Yeah, Terry Hatcher, and I really like it. I really like the stealth boat. I like the plot. I like the whole thing with manipulating the media and creating the news and starting a war between Britain and China. And I love all the the miniature work in that film is wicked with the boats and stuff. And it's got a good action scene. It's almost got a scene with guys running around in jumpsuits. Not quite, but nearly. On the stealth boat, we nearly got that. So,
did you know the story behind the title of the movie?
No, go for it.
Well, the title of the movie was originally called Tomorrow Never Lies because that was the tagline of the media corporation.
Right.
And of course, there was a typo when, unfortunately, it was actually being typed out ready for printing. And of course, the person who was typing it all out and typesetting everything for printing had put "Tomorrow Never Dies."
God, you know what? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. And
it was
they
actually
just went,
"Tomorrow Never Lies." Yeah,
and they just kind of went. Oh well, guess we'll go with it.
Yeah,
all the scripts must have "Tomorrow Never Lies" written on them. Then
it's "Tomorrow Never Dies." That's where the error came about.
The error came about on the script cover.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so they went with it. Yeah, I can see why they did that. I like the title "Tomorrow Never Lies." That's a good title, though. Makes a lot of sense with that that plot. My least favorite Brosnan one is Die Another Day. I love Halle Berry, absolutely amazing, but that whole sequence on the ice followed by the abseiling or whatever.
Oh my God!
The ice. Man.
Yeah. I feel I must offer my apologies right now because I did work on that movie.
Yeah, but you weren't responsible for that sequence.
Yeah, we're not blaming you.
No, but I could. I just feel like I need to apologize. Yeah. So
if you have guilt, I'll blame you.
All right, Tox has got to go. Tox has got to go in 20 minutes, so we'll finish this top. We'll finish this top 6, and then I'll bring on another guest to replace Tox when he has to jump. So we're down to our number 2 pick. Okay, so I'm going to do my number 2 and number 1. We're doing it together just to speed this up. So my number 2 pick is Sean Connery. My number 1 pick is Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan for me was. I just thought he was the best all-round Bond. He was convinced. He really good actor. Really looked the role. Physically, I felt he could inhabit the character. He had some good films and some so-so films and one terrible movie. but he had a good run. I would have liked to have seen him do one more film, and I know he wanted to do another one because he didn't like his last film. He he thought, yeah, we need to do, and he wanted the last one to be more like For Your Eyes Only. He wanted them to go really grounded and whatever. But I think they decided because they fucked up that last one, they just needed to go with somebody new. But yeah, so he's my overall favorite. Connery's got to be my number 2 because he's the one I grew up with initially, seeing Bond on telly. But then Roger Moore was the first Bond I saw at the cinema, which is why he's number 3. So Inside Man, your 1 and 2.
My number 2 is Timothy Dalton, and my number 1 is Daniel Craig. I think Daniel Craig is the epitome of the literary
grumpiness.
I think he's I think he's like I say, I kind of put them in order of the characters that I think I could either take in a fight or who could kick the shit out of me. Now, when I look at Daniel Craig, I think that guy looks like he can handle himself. Whereas everybody else, I think I can definitely take them. I would definitely be able to take the rest of them. Perhaps
Prime Connery? You think you could take Prime Connery?
Piece of cake, mate.
Whoa!
Piece of
Inside
cake.
Man is a pretty big dude, incidentally.
Yeah,
piece
he's
of
pretty
cake,
big dude.
mate. Yeah.
You wouldn't have wanted him if
Are we talking about the actors or the character?
Both. Both.
I would assume you take them. You got to take them both together, I guess. In this.
Oh yeah.
The Inside Man
It's
makes
like fighting Shatner, but also you're fighting Captain Kirk.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I mean, I just, kind of fly against everybody that goes against Daniel Craig. Not deliberately because I want to be a contrarian or anything. I genuinely think that he's a very, very good Bond. I like him.
I think he's the curmudgeon's Bond.
Yeah, that's right, and that's
you are a bit of
why,
a curmudgeon.
I am a curmudgeon.
So,
I am a curmudgeon. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that's why.
Yeah. So okay, we'll keep working our way down. Actually, Critter, you can go next. Who would be your
it's
number 2 and number 1?
Number 2, Roger Moore. Number 1, Sean Connery. And I think similar. You'd mentioned how you'd seen the Roger Moore films in the theater. My father would take us to the movies. My mom as well. So it's like being exposed to the Roger Moore, and then thanks to TV, the Sean Connerys. Those are my 2 favorite. Although I think I will admit, not reading a lot of the books, Daniel Craig and Dalton kind of were more of the grumpy, angry character, truer to the books.
Yeah.
I've never read the books. For me, Connery and Roger Moore, just because I grew up with them and they were the more rewatched and more familiar films.
I've got several, I think 3rd or 4th edition prints of the novels in a box right by my foot, and I keep saying I'm going to put them up on eBay and sell them because I don't know what I'm going to do with them really. And 5 or 6 of them are in really good condition. Unfortunately, Goldfinger is all falling apart, but it's got this beautiful kind of like gold glazed cover. Tox, your number 2 and number 1?
Yeah, so number 2, Roger Moore. I mean, for the obvious reason that I'm a child of the 80s. I grew up with him. Any one of his excuse me, sorry about that. Any one of his films would be on cable at any given time. You know what I mean? Like it would invariably, and my dad loved James Bond. It was one of the only times, he's almost bearable is if Bond was on. And I kind of dig I know he's a little goofy, but I think it just lends itself, like I said before, to the material, the source material is 70s and 80s camp, and I don't have a high tolerance for camp. Elsewise, he'd be my number 1. Number 1's got to be Pierce Brosnan. I grew up also in the 80s watching Remington Steele. I remember the whole controversy of him not getting the role because Remington Steele wouldn't let him out of his contract, and he lost it to Dalton. I mean, I remember that being like a thing when I was in my formative years. And I just, how I said, like, Sean Connery, I don't see him as Bond because he's always Sean Connery. I kind of can't take Pierce Brosnan in any other role because I always see him as Bond. Even before he was Bond, like when he was on Remington Steele, I thought he was the debonair, the slick spy the Gentleman Spy, and I know Die Another Day has its problems, but I would have liked to have seen a spin-off Jinx series.
I would have liked to have seen a Jinx show. I think she could have. That would have been really good. I think it would have totally worked.
And Rosamund Pike was great. I mean, it's just I don't know what happened there. Maybe there was studio involvement. I'm sure there's a behind the scenes story that
MGM.
Yeah, that I don't know what got all. But again, I think he was robbed of another one. And I really like the beginning of Die Another Day, where they have the whole him had been caught, and he didn't.
DMZ.
Yeah, he didn't use his cyanide tablet, and and all that kind of stuff. So, and I really like Goldfinger. It's my second favorite, obviously. And
okay, we can't get into film discussions.
Okay.
Gonna have to hurry you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just I think he brought back Bond being the Bond that we wanted. Because before then they had kind of homogenized Bond a little bit.
You're talking Brosnan here.
Yeah, because
I agree.
like Dalton before him, they sort of, I think there's a Dalton film where he doesn't even sleep with the woman, I think. And then, Pierce Brosnan, they made him kind of a cad again. And
the first Dalton film, they reined in all the sex because that was when the HIV pandemic was killing everybody in London, It was, so it was very much a decision of the time, but probably the right decision, I think, at the time. Anytime I see him, whether he's doing a comedy like Mrs. Doubtfire, or if he's doing Lawnmower Man or the Volcano movie, he's just James Bond to me. If I conjure a picture in my mind, if I read one of the books, I see his face and I hear his voice. So.
I mean, the thing about these movies is that each of them, they are contemporaneous. They're a contemporary movie to their time, so we know, they're most definitely time stamped. So they're a good kind of record of the attitudes of the day, of the political situations of the day, and that's why I've got a real thing about Die Another Day. I just don't like it, and The World Is Not Enough. I don't like it. But
I like aspects of both of those films, but not those films as a whole. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to get the rest of our poll done. So, number one picks for you, Gary, from Down Under. 1 and 2.
Me, 2 would be Sean Connery, and I'm with Inside Man, Daniel Craig, for number 1.
That's because you're a grumpy curmudgeon as well. So,
well, I watch a Daniel Craig film and I believe him. I just believe he'll kill people.
Don't get me wrong. I believe him in the role. I watch a Daniel Craig Bond movie, and I just feel like I want to slash my wrist. That's not what I want from a Bond film experience. You know what I mean? That's my problem.
If I want to have a giggle, I'll watch a Roger Moore Bond. But if
Roger Moore in the clown outfit fighting on top of a train.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or breaking out a load of prisoners on the La Paris, which is not one of the best action scenes ever made. We've also been joined by Proctophile,
how's it going, guys?
With the favorite probing name. Who would be your number 1 and 2 picks for Bond?
Number 2 is going to be Sean Connery. Number 1, I got to go with Roger Moore, just because I personally enjoyed his movies. They were just really fun. Just growing up and watching them.
Well, that's another vote for Roger Moore. We have a poll in the chat, and currently at the moment, Sean Connery is winning with 44% of the vote. Daniel Craig only getting 6, once again, which just proves that the Inside Man is wrong. Actually, that's gone down to 5% while I've been talking. Pierce Brosnan 16, and to give Roger and Tim a running chance, I put them both in the same category because we can only pick 4 categories: Roger Moore or Timothy Dalton. And George,
you've fixed the vote there. You've fixed that.
Well, Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton have got 33%, but Connery is in the lead with 48. So, guys in the chat, if you haven't voted yet, give it a vote. All right, let's come on to the main topic now. But Tox, I think we've got to lose you, right? Because you're going on another stream.
No, I'm gonna go watch a movie that Blue Collar and I are gonna review later this evening. But if you have a quick question, I can answer it real quick.
No. It's not a quick question. We're going to move on to a different topic. So if you've got to duck out, this would be a good segue.
Yeah. No, thank you for having me. Hey, Inside Man, I do like Daniel Craig as well. He's got flourishes of great Bond stuff, in each film. So
the voting is not finished, Darth Plato. You're correct. We are still voting. So Toxic. Oh, he's gone. I was going to say, Tox, I'll see you on Sunday. Let's move on to the main reason I wanted to do this stream tonight, which is the big news. So for those people who don't know, the Bond films, the main Bond films we're talking about, not Never Say Never Again and the Casino Royale spin-off, have always been made by Eon Productions. Eon Productions was, I think, predominantly set up primarily to make Bond. The film was, the company was originally co-shared by Albert Broccoli and Harry Saltzman. And they did, I think, about 4 or 5 Bond movies together. They did
up until the final one. The final one was The Man with the Golden Gun.
The Man with the Golden Gun, right?
Yeah, so that would be 7.
And they had a bit of a acrimonious breakup, I think. And then it fell under the, really fell at Eon, then really fell under the Broccoli family. Michael G. Wilson is the half brother of Barbara Broccoli. I don't know why I got it in my head earlier on Drinker's Stream that they were married. I don't know how I got that in my head. I think because there's been several pictures of them over the years taken as a sort of dynamic power couple, but more a brother-sister power couple, and I just somehow that got in my head that they were married. So yeah, I was wrong about that. But they produced the films very much together from the Brosnan era onwards, with Michael G. Wilson predominantly doing them after the death of Cubby. I think he passed away. Was it after the last Roger Moore?
No, it was just. I think it was just after they'd completed GoldenEye. I think it was either before they'd finished or just after they'd finished GoldenEye.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was during GoldenEye at some point. Okay, so these people have kind of had the reins for this. Somebody commented on a stream earlier on Open Bar earlier. This is the after party of Open Bar. Welcome, but all the drinks have been drunk. Sorry, but they said that this is similar to Lucas selling control of the Star Wars rights to Disney. It's not quite the same as that, because Lucas created Star Wars. The Broccolis didn't create Bond. They created the Bond films. But they didn't write the character of Bond. They didn't create the Bond character who came from books. Whereas Lucas didn't create Star Wars from a book. He created Star Wars, full stop. So it's not quite the same.
Or he created Star Wars from Flash Gordon.
Yeah,
and Hidden Fortress.
You could argue he created Star Wars from lots of influences, but he created an original franchise, albeit influenced by many other things.
Yes.
And the success of the Bond movies is what made spy movies trendy. Got a lot of other spy films financed. You can argue. I haven't particularly liked the Daniel Craig era, I will say, but they've made the films, and I think the films are consistent for Craig. I never liked the idea of the continuing story and all of that. I want to see when I go and see a Bond movie, I want a self-contained Bond film. I don't want to have to think back to the minutiae of different scenes in the last Bond film to make sense of this movie.
You see, I like that approach. I actually thought that approach was it was a lot fresher. I mean,
it was good. Yeah, it was a good idea and it was fresh. I don't know why. I'll tell you why it didn't work for me, because they started shooting the second Craig film without a script and it all kind of fell apart. And that story didn't really. They sort of had to. It was like a jigsaw set with pieces from 2 different jigsaws, and you're trying to make a pattern to fit your ongoing narrative, and it didn't quite work. And that whole opening action sequence for Quantum of Solace, which by the way is the worst title for a movie ever, let alone a Bond movie.
Although it is a Flemyng title.
Well, yeah, it's still a terrible title. Anyway, but that it was a short story, wasn't it, or something?
It was a short story.
Yeah.
Yes.
That action sequence with the cars, they filmed that because they had to start filming by a certain date. I forget the reasons. I think there were strikes and various.
It was the writer's strike. Yeah.
Right. They had to start filming, so they just said, "Let's film an action scene with Bond in a car chase, and we'll figure out where it goes in the film later because we don't have a script."
Oh my God!
I had no idea.
To be fair, that sequence was the one planned sequence that was ready to go.
Yeah, no, I get that. Let's film it because we know there's going to be a car chase, so they start planning it out. Like, where can we do it that we haven't seen before and things like that. And,
yeah, I mean, but that was the one that was the one sequence that was scripted because it was supposed to be the direct link. It was supposed to be directly after Casino Royale, which it was. The remainder of it, they had sequences and various scenes. I mean, from the production documents that I've got, you can see there's a little bit of disjointedness about it, but I actually think that this again is going to be one of those films that's going to be reevaluated. I don't think it's a particularly great film, but I don't think it's a particularly bad film either. I've seen worse, but certainly seen better.
Yeah. Well,
but
so okay. I mean, moving on from evaluating the Bonds that we've had. Nevertheless, I think overall we've had a good run, but you know, there's been some good Bond movies under every Bond. I think it's fair to say we've had some great ones under Connery, we've had some great ones under Moore. Lots of people think Lazenby's Bond movie is the best Bond movie of all time. I think it's a good Bond movie. I just think he doesn't make it the best Bond movie of all time. And then we've had Dalton's two films, one of which I really like. And then, of course, Brosnan. I think he did two great movies, two not so great. And then we have Craig. One of Craig's films I absolutely loved. The first one, Casino Royale. Took my mum to see it. She loved it. Absolutely hated the last one. But nevertheless, we've had good stuff and bad stuff under every Bond.
True.
Now it's going to Amazon. Now it's going to Amazon. Imagine if the team who made Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, are given this. It's
absolutely devastating.
Yeah, and I think the possible scenarios that we might get, I think, are these. One is we might get, first of all, we might just get, okay, we're going to carry on with Bond. It's a new Bond, and here we go. That's one scenario, and I think that'll be the core. Then we might get some spin-off Bond shows, and there'll probably be, if they've got any sense, there'll probably be a female Bond spin-off. Gary just got called to do an acting audition, so he had to jump off. He sends his apologies. And I'm fine with that as long as they don't try and make that Bond. As long as they do a spin-off and they call it 009 and that's a female agent, I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. They could do a Q spin-off show and I'd watch it probably. I don't know if they should do, but and you know, they could bring Jinx back and it could be a younger mixed-race actress playing Jinx, and I'd be quite happy to watch that. I think if they work within the existing law and don't fuck with the existing law, it could be really interesting. The problem is the track record of people not messing with the existing law and giving it the care and respect that it deserves when they take on new franchises is really bad. So that opinion expressed, I'll hear views from my panelists. Inside Man, you go first.
Yeah, it's the problem is that at this particular stage in the game, anything that we say is obviously going to be completely speculative and conjecture, right? So,
and that's what YouTube's all about. So far away.
However, we we know what the pattern is. We
Yeah,
have seen the
yeah.
pattern, and it is a very, very much an established pattern that these companies, corporations, media organizations do. We know what they do with product. We know that whenever these corporations, these huge media organizations have these franchises as a gift, and these are gifts. Bond is a gift. Star Trek, Star Wars, Doctor Who, Indiana Jones, Marvel, these are gifts to these companies. These are huge gifts. And you have to be really, really talented to fuck it up. But they fucked it up. You know, their predecessors in the previous franchises have completely ballsed it up. So we know where the potential is for this to go. We know where we want it to go. We don't want everything that we love about this franchise to be sucked out of it and then discarded, and then for them to put their own stamp, twist, spin, whatever you want to call it, onto it. But we see that pattern time and time and time again, and it's too familiar to us now. So it's down really to something that we expect. We're expecting it. It's almost our default position. That's why we're talking about it this evening or this morning. It's become our default position, and that's really unfortunate. There's no celebration or no kind of joy in this news, and it's so unfortunate that there's no joy in this news because of the way things have gone previously with other
Yeah,
franchises.
if we just had an absolutely cracking Amazon Lord of the Rings show, we'd be going, "Oh my god, this is great news!" You know, but unfortunately,
all Amazon had to do, right, on this news, all they had to do was to come out and say, "Look, to all of you existing Bond fans, please don't be concerned about this. Let us set your mind at rest. We absolutely guarantee you that we're not going to spoil this for you. We're going to make the franchise evolve, but we're not going to turn it into something that's completely unrecognizable to all of those millions of fans around the world.
Right.
We're not going to take everything that's good out of the franchise and discard it." That's all they have to say. Just make that statement.
Yeah.
But they won't.
No, of course
they won't.
Critters, you're a man who has just reevaluated Section 31 with your own personal video. Really liked the ray guns, and
I appreciate that.
Impressed with the casting choices. Some of the actors were better than the actual actors on Section 31.
I did like the reverse race swapping only because I only know mostly white people. Anyway,
do check out Critters' channel.
Like, how do you reverse that?
Yeah, send me the link.
You know, African Americans. My family is white, so
okay.
Certain characters were clearly a white guy instead of African American. So I when you invited me, I had two thoughts. First of all, I looked at the folks who wrote the last all the Daniel Craigs, and granted, they went down in I would say quality. I never even saw the last ones. I just heard horrible things about it. And it's the same four writers, and one was the director writer. And I'm kind of wondering, because we already know about Marvel and other products on Amazon and Lucasfilm, that other people must get involved and mess with things. Because I think we all agree that oh, for God's sakes, the first Daniel Craig film was actually pretty good.
No, yeah, I like Casino Royale.
And the same group of people were involved in the other three films. So you have I guess it goes down in quality for the most part, especially that last one. I also, when they announce something, I try to avoid that knee-jerk reaction, like when they announce a Star Wars product. I'm like, okay, maybe, and it always goes south. I just did a quick print up of some of the original. If you want to look at Amazon as a movie studio, which I guess they are. I mean, they produce their own stuff. I kind of did a quick look through all their original programming, their original films, and it looks like it's hit or miss. So fingers crossed that they treat Bond well. And just really, really quick, and you can tell me to shut up if you need. But like, all right, example, Wheel of Time. I think most people would say that was a mess. Rings of Power. The Boys started off strong, and I think it's gone off the rail. But then you also have things like Invincible, Fallout, and The Rig, which all seem to be consistently good. So just looking over the Batman Cape Crusaders, just looking over stuff that Amazon has worked with, and granted, it's also the people involved. I feel like hopefully they'll do good, they'll do right by the Bond franchise, but it just kind of looks like it's a hit or miss as you go down this list of product that they've created. And I kind of feel like just because, you talk about, something new coming out, I don't want to get burned again. You see the latest Marvel film or Star Wars show and like, so I'm very apprehensive. It's Amazon, so you can watch it for free, I guess. If you take the time.
I mean, to be fair to Amazon, season 3 of Reacher, I know, dropped today.
Yeah.
And when they took on Reacher, we were all a little bit apprehensive. But I was glad that they took it on because, Tom Cruise, to his credit, did a really good job with Jack Reacher. He was convincing as the character, but he was never the Reacher from the books who's
right,
kind of described as a 7 foot tall unstoppable tank, which you don't associate Tom Cruise with being 7 feet tall with the best will in the world. So they made sure that they cast him true to the books, which and then I think in the very first episode there's an incredible fight scene in a prison with sinks being broken over people's heads and all kinds of things like that. And it very much was, we're in the territory of the book here. So this is clearly a team that knew the books, gave it the respect it required, cast it appropriately, and it's been season 2 hit and miss for me, but overall I like it. I like Anna Richardson in the lead. Thank you for the name, Bill. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing season 3. Now, if they get a team together who have a similar love and know the background material, and it's people that love the characters, because look, Bond is not a character that everybody loves. I remember sitting in a bar with a group of friends of mine, and there was a contingent of LGBT people there, and I was talking about my Christmas movie quiz, and Roger Moore had just died, and I remember saying, I've got to have a James Bond round at my movie quiz this year, and one of the girls went, "Oh God, Bond," and I looked at her I gave her a proper look of, disdain. But then, this is a 30-year-old lesbian, 20 years younger than me, who's been brought up in a very different environment to me and isn't a Bond fan. Absolutely fair enough. But that's also not the sort of person that should be creating the next Bond series. So if you're going to create a Bond franchise within Amazon, be very clear from the word go. Who are you creating this for? Because you've got to know the audience that likes Bond.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, because there is no narrowed down demographic that Bond movies appeal to. They appeal to absolutely everybody, and this is why I firmly believe,
not everybody, but you mean what you mean is there are groups
spheres
within different demographics.
Within every demographic.
It
doesn't matter what the demographic is, and this is the problem that I have with that term. That constantly gets overused by studios. We're making this for a modern audience, and there is no such thing. It's a myth that they put about. They put this about. It's a complete myth. There's no such thing as a modern audience. There is only such a thing as an audience. It's just an audience. It's not a modern audience. Don't keep trying to convince us that this is something that if you use the word modern as a prefix, that suddenly you're going to get loads of youngsters going to see your movie and thinking that it's hip and trendy. Give us a break.
Before I come to you, just want to say hi to independent film director Oliver Hollingdale, who is in the chat. Always a pleasure to have you on the channel, mate. Good to see you. He has just made his, I think, first full feature film. Oh my God, the title's gone out of my head. It's not Pendergast.
It's
Gallimere.
That's
Gallimere. Yeah. So a fantasy film with have sword, will travel, that kind of thing. Needs more castles, but I have seen it. I do like it. It's a labour of love. Proctofile, jump in, mate. Your thoughts on Amazon taking on the Bond franchise?
I think it is an absolute tragedy because James Bond is one of those. It's one of those IPs. Like, it's not a franchise. It is a straight up legacy that was brought to us straight out of World War II from Operation Mincemeat. Like, one of the craziest true stories you will ever hear, involving dressing up like a dead body.
Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with that operation.
It's an incredible story, and Ian Flemyng was actively involved in designing it.
What did you think of the movie? What did you think of the movie?
I haven't seen the movie yet, but I am intimately familiar with the story.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
As I said, this is a true legacy series, and you have to treat it with respect. The second Amazon put the words James Bond and content in the same conversation, all credibility is going to be thrown out the window. I'm expecting something as bad, if not worse, than Rings of Power. There's going to be tons of spinoffs. It's all going to be super stupid. None of it's going to actively hold up. And my expectations are below the gutter.
I don't know if you heard, but the inside man's testicles actually caught fire then when you said the word content.
Sorry, I had to.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think that word, for me, that's a real dirty word. I can't stand hearing that word content. Don't give us content. Please give us movies and give us TV shows. I don't want content.
Yeah. So content is like stupid meme compilations that you're never going to remember.
Yeah.
Filler.
It's literally just like the feelies from the Huxley book, where none of it matters. Content does not matter. But fucking James Bond inspired so many people, and I remember binge watching all those movies growing up, on a loop.
Yeah,
it's such an amazing series, and to see how far it's been dragged down, it's such a tragedy.
Yeah.
A question for the group. I know it's just been announced, and actually just now I learned I did a bit of I shouldn't say deep dive. I didn't realize not just movies, but like you said, content. I just thought they were going to do films, not realize they were trying to create another Star Trek-esque universe with multiple shows and whatnot. I had no idea about that. What are the like you talk about, like Reacher season 1, they knew it. Picard season 3, that's a love letter. Someone had cared about that. What do they get the same kind of? Again, I'm not even sure. Are we aware of anyone who's going to be working on this other than it's just the studio? Because I wonder if the right person, at the very least, at the beginning with the first film, does it right and hopefully sets a standard. Is there any information about who else is involved in the writing? I mean, I know it just got announced, a day ago, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
I mean, it literally was today.
No. Okay.
And the information is pretty limited. There's nothing about, from what I can see, I'll just put the article up, and the articles all more or less say the same thing. I've got the BBC one here. Yeah. There's the late after Thursday's announcement, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos canvassed fans on social media asking, who do you pick as the next James Bond? Now, I'll tell you, out of these three choices, I'll tell you who I would go with, without a doubt. 2000%, I'd go with Theo James, who's third on the right. I would not go with James Norton. He has not got the acting balls for this role. I like him as an actor. I just don't think he's Bond.
I'm not familiar with any of these guys.
He's too grumpy again. He's another grumpy energy guy.
Oh, choose him.
No. If you watch Theo James if you remember on the Nielsen ratings, Inside Man, I recommended this show. It's the one that's kind of a bit like The Gentleman. It's like Guy Ritchie inspired, but it's a TV series.
Yes, I do.
With the posh people, posh criminals, criminal family, and he's like the older brother.
Yes, yeah.
He's got a really similar kind of tone and energy to Henry Cavill, except he's younger. So I think I think Henry Cavill could still play the role. Actually.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I'd be quite happy if they cast Cavill immediately and they go straight into production. I'm all up for Cavill being involved.
But let him direct it too. That's the only way I'd accept it.
No, I don't. I'm not an advocate of actors directing themselves. I think he needs a director, but make it,
or at least let him choose the director. Somebody who's actually going to care about the quality.
It needs to be a team. It's not just about who do we cast as Bond. It's who are the team. Who is that? You want a hands-on producer. You want someone like Gail Ann Hurd in her heyday, because I don't think she'd do it now. But you want a Gail Ann Hurd type who's going to fight for the director. You want a young James Cameron type as the director who's a massive Bond fan.
I think Martin Campbell would still be a great choice. He's one of the best action directors around. I mean, even now he did
Goldeneye, didn't he?
He did Goldeneye and Casino Royale.
Yeah, so he could still do it. I mean, but you want someone who gets and understands Bond, or who grew up with Bond. You don't want, someone coming in just to put it on their CV. Director for hire kind of thing.
Not like
I also think that one of the issues I think that they're going to face is, I honestly, growing up, I don't, granted there was no internet, I don't remember any kind of backlash when Roger Moore was announced or whatever, but I know that there's a lot of buzz about Daniel Craig being announced way back when, and just the Hornswoggle with the new Superman, so I also wonder if that's going to also hurt them. Like, whoever they pick, will half the audience or the fans just hate him just because it's not Daniel Craig or it's not.
That's a very good point. I think it's kind of out of their hand. I'm so sorry. It's kind of out of their hands that you really can't. They pick someone and then half the audience doesn't like them. No matter what you do.
I hear what you're saying, but I think it just needs. It's not just the Bond. It needs the right team. So let's just see what else the other information is that there is here. Is when Amazon agreed to take over, they shared the rights. Yeah, okay. I mean, this was something interesting that I didn't know, because this negotiation took quite a while to sort out, right? And last August, there was no script, no title, not even a director for another installment. In October, Amazon MGM Studios boss Jennifer Salke told The Guardian, there's lots of different ways we can go with the franchise not spelt correctly, that we don't want too much time between films, but we're not concerned at this point. She also said she had a close relationship with Broccoli and Wilson. And then the newspaper also claimed that Broccoli had privately described Amazon as, and I think the full quote is, a bunch of idiots. The Amazon Studios team. I mean, well, certainly the people that were put in charge of Rings of Power certainly qualify for that description.
And they're going to do all 5 seasons of Rings of Power. It's in for a penny, in for a pound, right?
I mean, I'm amazed that, like, I mean,
3 just got announced,
season
right?
2, they didn't even attempt to resolve the problems that they had with season 1. They doubled down and gave us one of the worst battle scenes that made absolutely no sense in television history.
Yeah.
So,
there's so many issues with that series.
No one who's on Rings of Power should be anywhere near whatever Bond thing is created. I don't mind if they do stuff with different characters. I don't mind if there's a female 00 agent, as long as she's not 007. Call her 009, make it a 009 spin-off. I think 009 is a cool number. Just have a and then she can meet Bond occasionally. They can come across each other's paths, kind of thing. You could introduce both characters that way with the pilot, and then have her pop up in her own thing. Daryl Johnston raises a good point, which Roger Moore was known to UK audiences as the Saint, who was kind of a sort of do-gooder secret agent type character. So when he was announced that he was going to be the next Bond, British audiences were actually quite pleased, because he was already very beloved. So nice. it was an easy transition for British.
Having said that, if you look at some of the press at the time, there's an awful lot that wasn't particularly favourable. I'm not
that old, Inside Man. I can't remember that far back.
But there's this newfangled thing called the internet that I sometimes look at.
Okay.
Whoa.
I also think it was helpful for movie studios prior to the internet, and I think compared to the 70s, 80s, they actually cared about the product they were making.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they didn't have to deal with the internet ramblings and hatred or exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Critter? Is that 4 snow speeders you've got jammed in one shelf behind your head?
Yeah.
I thought it was. I was looking at that. And I was thinking, what is
I'm sorry,
that?
I didn't mean to derail. Yeah, this is a little bit mixture of vintage and modern.
No, that's cool.
Nice.
You need to see the 6-foot Super Star Destroyer that me and my dad built sometime. I'll show you.
Is it still out in the backyard?
I'm afraid not, but it did exist. If I can find the picture I've got of it, I'll put it up before the end of the stream. But if I can't find it, there's a picture of it in my new book, so you can look at it in there.
I really feel like I'm rubbing elbows with guys who are. I'm very impressed. Sorry, nerdy.
No.
I'm excited. This is so cool. I'm sorry.
That's the whole point of this channel. The whole point of this channel is called the Outcasts Creative. And the reason this channel exists is to promote creative people. You're a creative person with a YouTube channel who's just starting out. The purpose of my channel is to help you out. That's why when somebody said, "Hey, check this channel out. I think this guy would be worth supporting," they put that in front of me. And that's the same way. That's how Proctofile came on as well.
Yes, sir.
So that's what we do here. And I extend that message to anybody else watching who's a creative, or if you've got a YouTube channel, it might not be the biggest channel on the planet. I don't care if you've got 1 subscriber or 1 million subscribers. I don't care about that. But if you're interesting and you're passionate about things, you're welcome here. And we don't have to agree on stuff. You might think The Acolyte is the best science fiction show ever made, and if that's what floats your boat and it worked for you, I'll still have you on and we can talk about it. I mean, obviously you will be a moron if you think that. I will still have you on.
Yeah, I would say that is either going to be one of the most interesting conversations ever or the most one-sided ass whooping of all time.
Well, indeed. I mean, but I'm theorizing here in something that's not going to happen. But we don't always agree on things. I mean, me and the Inside Man constantly disagree on stuff, and I just occasionally I have to just remind him, look, don't forget I'm right. Yeah. So
and then he'll drop me out of the stream.
Yeah. Dropping
you
out of the stream is quite common.
Yeah. So I now know my place.
No, but we have fun here. But joking aside, that's why we're here, mate. That's the purpose of this channel, and I think we're the only channel like that. And again, also on top of that, we interview people in the industry. So, but we don't have those of us that work in the industry. Not everybody on the channel does, but a few key people do that help me out. We don't have a snobbish attitude of, oh, we're on one side of it and you're on the other. It's all linked as far as I'm concerned. So I don't. I've been in the trenches a long time, so I'm pretty grounded.
Well, I will say there's some of these random channels like this that talk about film. You learn something. Like, there's a couple things early when I first joined about the books and comparisons. I had no idea that Ian Flemyng even kills off his character way back when. So.
Yeah, in fact, I didn't know that, but I had forgotten it. So the Inside Man is occasionally to remind me about things that I forget because my memory is quite.
Because I think the author John Pearson was actually charged with writing an obituary. So there was an obituary of James Bond that appeared in the Times, and an official autobiography, which was considered an obituary piece. So that was written after Bond was killed off. But of course, it's exactly the same as Sherlock Holmes, as I mentioned before, that Conan Doyle revived Sherlock Holmes after the outcry of his death. So after the Reichenbach Falls debacle with Moriarty. But yeah, a very very literary thing.
Just like James Caan in Misery wanted to kill off his character.
Yeah.
And then he was convinced otherwise to bring her back.
Yeah.
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 Same thing happened with Pinocchio way back in the day.
Yeah, actually, Misery that's a great movie. I saw that opening night, Odeon Leicester Square. It was absolutely packed out.
Yeah.
I had not read the book, so I had no idea of what was coming.
And I think didn't that help James Caan get his career up and going again?
It did.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
And one of the reasons for that was that he was extremely disliked by directors because he was extremely grumpy to work with.
So he should play James Bond.
I mean, for the Inside Man, he would have been a perfect.
Perfect Bond. Yeah, a little too short, but yeah, and he would have been the only American. In fact, we've only. What's strange is that we've only actually had 2 Englishmen playing James Bond. Isn't that weird?
It is kind of weird because Lazenby was Australian. Connery's a Scotsman.
Pierce Brosnan's an Irishman.
Brosnan's an Irishman. So Dalton and Moore, isn't it? Dalton and Moore.
No, Moore and Craig, because Timothy Dalton is Welsh.
Well, I mean, it's only a minor duchy of England, really, isn't it? You know, come on.
He does have a strong Welsh accent.
Is Henry Cavill American?
English.
No, he's English, but he hasn't played. Yeah. He hasn't played Bond yet.
But I'm saying, like, if they were to get him, I was like, he'd probably be the first English guy if he got it.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'd be quite happy to see him in the role. Seeing as you're a big Star Wars fan, Critter, I found we're going to have to go to the manuscript of my book, but that is the 6-foot Super Star Destroyer on the right. I'm afraid I can't make it much bigger than that. Nice. But that's us just after we've painted it. That cord that's running around here, that's actually an airbrush. And then if I go back a couple of pages, there's the fleet of regular Star Destroyers to go with it being constructed in my kitchen.
How long was this project going for?
That was done in 1992. So it was for a games convention. We recreated the battle from Return of the Jedi. I do actually have pictures of the convention. I thought there's a really entertaining one of me with an Admiral Akbar mask on. But anybody who
the Star Wars community, I always enjoy hearing all these stories going back. Oh, me and my dad, me and my mom. Like there's all these guys and girls. There's that one common theme for the most part, where it's like a parent and a child bonding and both being exposed back in the 70s and the 80s to the Star Wars films. And that helps, I would say, bring some families a little bit closer. So I know my father and I, he was a big sci-fi guy.
Well, you time that point really well, because that is the entire story of what my latest book is. Silver Screen Journeys is all of those stories about who I bonded with over which film that I saw, who I went to the cinema to see it with, where we saw it, and how the film impacted my life going forward. So there's actually a photograph of me and my dad on the back, because I saw a lot of films with my dad. So that is available on Amazon in America and the UK. So people in YouTube land, if you fancy supporting me, do pick up a copy. It's also got a foreword by the Critical Drinker. You might have heard of him.
I think I have.
He was kind enough to write the foreword for my book. So and quite a few people that have been on my channel I've recommended to him, and they've ended up on Open Bar. So in the future, hey, you never know. But I think pretty much all of several people from the Nielsen ratings panel have been on there, haven't they? Blue Collar Loser and
Luke.
Yeah, Northern Bastard's been on there. Him and Blue have been on there several times, haven't they?
Yes. Yeah.
So, Critter's connection has gone wonky. Fav's asking who. Yeah, so Blue Collar Loser's a regular on this channel. And so is Northern Bastard, and they're both people whose channels I brought to the attention of the drinker and said you should check these guys out. And to name but a couple, because I've done that quite a few times for people.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So Drew also saw Misery at the cinema. Critter's got an issue with his camera, so I'll just duck him out for the second until we can get him back again. Yeah, so that scene, Yeah, I know the scene you're talking about,
Yeah,
Tom, with
the
the
hobbling scene.
the breaking of the legs.
Yeah.
Oh my God, everybody winced in the cinema. Like,
Although to be fair, he was, according to Kathy Bates, a dirty birdie. So I agree with her.
Yeah.
right. So the tension between him and her were probably quite genuine then, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, well,
you're talking about
she-
the scene with the sheriff. That is a good scene as well. Yeah, where she suddenly like blows him down the stairs. I remember the whole audience like fucking jumped on that bit as well.
I think one of the tense scenes is when he knocks off the little penguin. He puts the penguin
Yeah.
back the wrong way.
Yeah.
Because she's got that sort of OCD thing. Is facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
penguin always faces south or something.
Yeah, that was really tense. I mean, for something so minor.
I'll tell you actually. Do you know what?
I'll
tell you what would be a good episode of Chew the Fat to do, guys. Would be an evaluation of all the Stephen King adaptations. Like, which is your favorite? Which is your least favorite? Because we could talk about. I think Misery would probably be my number one pick, so it's a bit of a done deal already. But we could talk about Misery. We could talk about Christine, the Langoliers, got the Tommyknockers.
That's a long list.
No, there's loads to choose from. There's loads that have been adapted. You've got 2 versions of Salem's Lot. First Salem's Lot is wicked.
Got like 4 It movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you include the TV movies as well, there's just so many.
Yeah.
See, I would probably go for the ones that Stephen King hates the most. So, because he notoriously hates everything that's been adapted, apart from Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile. I think those are the only things that he actually likes.
Welcome back, Critter. You're currently muted. We moved on to briefly talk about Stephen King adaptations in your absence. Let me try and unmute you here. You've got your mic. It says your mic isn't connected, so you've got to fiddle around with your mic or do something. Fiddle with knobs, twist buttons. Hang on, twist knobs, press buttons. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, might get that. Well, we're gonna wrap up pretty soon. Critter, do a mic.
Yeah,
check.
sorry, I kicked my plug out and then I died.
That happens. At least it wasn't your life support plug, so you're still alive. You're still here.
I'm so sorry. I missed a little bit there. I want to ask Inside Man, how long before that they've announced it, they work on it? When do you think Amazon's going to talk about the modern audience? Not to get you angry, but how much longer between now and they go into production do they mention the modern audience?
I'll give it a couple of months, and they'll start talking about modern audiences. I'll give it two months max. Okay. And then we'll hear it. We'll hear that wonderful phrase that they like to dole out to us credulous arseholes that actually go and watch their stuff. Yeah. I mean, let's face it. We know what they think of us. We know what they think of their audience. They're not interested in an audience. They like the disposable kind of audience, the audience that likes disposable media. They don't like audiences that prefer, legacy media.
Sad and true.
Well, yeah. It's not even that. Like, I always see these franchises, and I'm sorry if we're running out of time. Just tell me to shut up. I always find it odd. Like, they always want to insult the audience, part of the audience that actually supported and has the what do you call it? Not liquid cash, the disposable income. Yeah. So they're pursuing people who, like, all right, I'll use Star Wars as an example. Yeah. They got rid of the legacy stories, the expanded universe, and then they kind of threw stuff in the face of the fans who support. They had the money to support it all through the 80s and 90s into early 2000s, and then it's like, oh, it's not made for you. And it's all right, the modern audience. And I always find it so odd that as a studio or even an actor or producer, why would you want to annoy or insult the people who would give you money to watch your stuff and buy your product? It blows my mind.
I mean, it's completely baffling, isn't it? I mean, because you have your ready-made audience there. It's there. You don't have to do anything. As I said before, this is, these are gifts that these people have purchased. They've purchased these massive gifts. Star Wars was a gift. You couldn't go wrong. There was nothing you could do to make that wrong.
Well, that's the thing, is they're looking at it as a purchase and not a gift.
Yeah.
So now they're going to do with it whatever the hell they want, because they have the option.
Yeah.
And of course, if you don't support it, you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yep. Of course.
Right. Okay, we're gonna end our poll in a second. So guys, if you haven't voted, vote now. Currently, Sean Connery is in the lead with 50%. Closely followed by Roger Moore / Timothy Dalton at 34%, and then Daniel Craig and Pierce Brosnan are equal at 8%. So there you go. So the curmudgeon Bond, not that popular on the vote. Somebody said I haven't included all the options, and Richard Hawkins, welcome to the channel. Not sure I've seen you in the chat before, so you're most welcome. I'm afraid there's only 4 choices, and I had to double up on one of those. So on the poll, you can't do like 6 choices, which is kind of annoying. Bill Barkley, who's been coming up with all kinds of interesting facts. The Mist, The King, very good. The Last Stand, I think you mean The Stand rather than The Last Stand. Yeah, I like the 80s version of The Stand. I've got a lot of time for that. The new version was absolutely diabolical. I wrote a review on IMDb for that show right after I saw it, and I proper took it apart. It's a really long review, and it was the #1 review for The Stand for ages. And then their trolls went to work on it and tried to bump it further down, but it is still there. Yeah, it's that new version of The Stand was really terrible. They started the opening scene of if you've read the book or you know the 80s show, you'd know what a bad decision this is. The opening scene of the new version of The Stand is them clearing out a load of bodies from a church several years after the virus has broken out. That's the opening scene. And it's like, hang on, but we don't know who any of the characters are. We haven't established anything. Anyone who hasn't seen the previous version or read the book doesn't know what's going on here. And it stayed in that timeline for quite a while before then it jumped back to the beginning, and it jumped around like that the whole way through the show. And I thought, what the fuck are you doing? Like, there's no sense of continuity here. Sebastian Story, actor in the chart. This is a guy who's was one of my acting students. He's quite a jobbing actor now. He's just done a werewolf movie, in fact. Glad you're covering this topic. Interested to know what's going on with both Bond and Doctor Who at the moment. Don't get me started on Doctor Who, mate.
It's all bad, brother.
That's a topic for another stream.
I don't even watch Doctor Who, and I feel bad for you guys.
Flav is telling me to close the poll already. Yeah, we're okay. Well, we're going to end the poll now. I think Sean Connery won. Sean Connery won that. All right, so I'm going to start to wrap up. I'm just going to let people know about some stuff we've got coming up. So you might not be aware of this, but I did interview 100. In fact, we should have done interview 101 yesterday, but our guest had to cancel due to illness. But if you didn't catch it, interview 100 was a reunion of interview 1. Interview 1 took place in July of 2022. And that was really the moment where my YouTube channel kind of took the direction it's in now. And I started interviewing people from my industry, and I got Jason on. And because me and the drinker were already communicating, I said, why don't you come on as my guest co-host? And that was how that all started. So they both came back on for interview 100, where we talk about our favorite films in about 6 different genres. So it's actually it's a good laugh. It's like us all being down the pub having a chat. So very kind of relaxed and informal, whereas my other industry interviews are a little bit more, they're a bit more structured. This was much more freewheeling. We've got a new episode of Chew the Fat coming up, in case people don't know what that is. It's where myself and one of my regular guests, it's often film director Matthew Holmes from Australia. Sometimes it's the Inside Man. Sometimes it might be one of my other guys from the Nielsen ratings. We pick a topic normally a film or a TV show, and we talk about it in detail. It's usually stuff we want to recommend you. At the moment on Sundays, which I'm going to show you a trailer for before we go, we are doing Chew the Fat on the entire television series of The Shield, possibly the best cop show ever made, in my opinion, the best. But in 2 Sundays' time, when we finished season 2 of The Shield, myself and the Inside Man are doing all 4 movies about the raid on Entebbe. So we're going to be talking through all 4 of these films. Quite topical at the moment with Gaza and Israel and everything that's been going on. We're going to be talking which of these films is the best, which is the most entertaining, which is the most accurate, which has got the best cast, which does the action sequences the best, and then which is the overall best. I have a feeling myself and the Inside Man are probably going to agree on this one.
I think so.
But we've got 4 films
one way or another.
Better than the Sweeney. Yeah, we did the Sweeney recently. So we're going to be covering that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Critter, remind me of your channel's name, buddy.
It's Critter Kingsford. Just go to YouTube and look at Critter Kingsford.
Same as your. Let me just get it up here. On I always do this for new people that come on.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, there we go. There's your Section 31 trailer that I watched. So if you're a big fan of Section 31, which I'm sure all 26 people watching right now are, you might want to see Mr. Critter's trailer for Section 31, which is on his channel here, which is a piss take trailer of kind of everything that's wrong with Section 31. In fact, there's a couple of different videos that he's done. It's pretty entertaining. I'm going to give you a subscriber. I'm your 400th. I'm your 400th subscriber.
God
so, yeah, Critter Kingsford. Let's just go to the main channel, and I'll put that in the chat. So this is a young channel, guys. Do check it out. Give it a sub. They create pretty entertaining videos. I watched a couple today. A lot of fun. So there you go, sir.
Absolutely appreciate it.
No worries. And don't forget to return the karma and do the same for us when you're doing a live stream sometime. Yeah, Procto, have you got anything coming up you want me to plug, buddy?
Not lately. As I told you recently, work's been having me go like 13 plus hours a day, so I haven't had time to actually like do the proper networking for like the podcast.
I thought you were doing a top 10 favorite female posteriors in movie stream. When's that happening?
That would be easy, but
I don't know.
I'll have to put that.
A bit of a challenge. I need to think about that. I need to think about that quite carefully.
What are you talking about? It's easy.
Okay.
If you end up doing the top 10 posteriors, let me know. I'd like to be a part of that stream.
Yeah. Count me in.
Yeah, everybody's up for that.
Yes, we are in.
There you go, buddy. You got a new sub. Yeah, the new Entebbe film is The 7 Days on Entebbe. That was made a few years ago, and it is in the discussion. There hasn't been another one made since then. Well, not that I know of, anyway. Yeah. Okay.
Luckily,
you got a stream. You got a stream.
Sorry, what?
No, sorry. So you've not got a stream coming up right now.
No, not at the moment. But here in the near future, I will be able to start scheduling again.
All right.
Great.
Okay. Well, that's going to be it from us for tonight. It remains for me to thank everybody in the chat for tuning in. I really do appreciate you coming. We had quite a nice little audience. It's good doing these after open bar because we always pick up a few new people, and a lot of people, it's quite hard for smaller channels to get noticed. And because I'm not posting videos of big ass ladies in bikinis and people having car crashes and chucking bottles of ice over each other's heads, but I am posting really interesting
content.
But I am creating interesting content with interviews with people in the industry. And
you're putting out quality stuff. I love your interviews.
Do check them out because I think you'll find out that there's a lot of content on here that you'd be quite surprised about. Go to the industry interviews playlist and you'll see them. Sebastian, you're welcome. And by the way, there was an actor that I met in a restaurant with his family who is on your friends list on Facebook. And when I got home, I sent him a friend request, and who's a mutual friend? Sebastian Story. So I'll tell you that story when I talk to you offline, mate. So Rachel Piercy Art has said, got to have more big boob ladies, Lance. Well, we're waiting for you to come on the stream, Rachel. You've got an open invite whenever you want to come on. Send us your artwork as well. Rachel's got a really good artwork page. Google Rachel Piercy Art, and it. Well,
you're going to say something else then.
I was not.
Well, just Google Rachel's.
on that note, don't forget, this is what we've got coming up on Sunday at 8 o'clock UK time, 3 p.m. East Coast.
I'm a different kind of cop. We knock down the doors other cops don't want to. Taking fire from every scumbag in town.
They didn't earn it. I don't feel bad about taking it.
All about bringing force down on the street. Why don't y'all take a look at what you got going on under your own roof?
I never put the money above us.
How long you think that's gonna last?
I don't want Vic in our lives anymore.
You're investigating me? Vic Mackey beats suspects and deals drugs. And that's just all in one day. I wonder what he's gonna do tomorrow. Everybody down!
Hey, my day's just getting started.
Hang out with the Lance at the Outcasts Creative, where all the misfits and dreamers get innovative. It's film, TV, and theater in the mix. Industry interviews, where ideas get their fix. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcasts Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Interviews with fellow artists on the rise, and reviews that might surprise. Films, TV shows from back in the day. You might just find a hidden gem today. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcasts Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Makers, comic book creators, stand up proud. Actors, musicians, board game designers, be loud. At Outcast Creative, amazing's the word. He even interviewed the legend, Galen Hurd. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcast Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. So come along, take a chance. Join the Outcasts, hang with Lance. Bring your vision, your art, your flair. At Outcasts Creative, there's always room to share. Hang with Lance